Every World Cup has an enemy. Sometimes it is a rival team. Sometimes it is pressure. Sometimes it is one missed penalty, one bad referee call, one injury, or one mistake made in front of millions. But in 2026, the most dangerous opponent at the World Cup was not wearing a shirt. It had no flag. No anthem. No captain. No number on its back. It was above the stadium. It was trapped in the concrete. It was moving through the streets, pressing against the bodies of fans, players, workers, volunteers, police officers, and children. It was the heat. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was supposed to be the biggest football tournament ever staged. Canada, Mexico, and the United States were hosting together. 48 teams. 104 matches. Millions of fans. Airports full. Hotels booked. Streets painted with flags. Stadiums prepared like theaters for history. The world came for football. But before the knockout rounds reached their most dramatic stage, meteorologists were watching something else. A heat dome. A heat dome does not arrive like a storm. There is no lightning. No wall of rain. No dramatic explosion in the sky. It is quieter and more dangerous. A high-pressure system traps heat and humidity in place. The air stops moving. The heat cannot escape. Roads, buildings, stadium walls, and parking lots absorb it during the day and release it slowly at night. On television, the World Cup still looked beautiful. Fans wore national shirts. Children carried flags. Families took photos outside stadiums. Broadcasters showed color, music, dancing, and celebration. But the camera could not show how the air felt. It could not show the pressure on the chest. It could not show the moment when excitement turned into exhaustion. That is the frightening thing about heat. A stadium collapse looks like disaster. A riot looks like disaster. A storm looks like disaster. But heat can look like a sunny day. And by the time people understand the danger, the body may already be losing the fight. The heat story of the 2026 World Cup did not begin in 2026. It began years earlier, in warnings, studies, and matches where football had already been forced to stop. In 2014, during the World Cup in Brazil, the Netherlands played Mexico in Fortaleza. The temperature reached dangerous levels, and for the first time in World Cup history, a cooling break was used. The referee stopped the match, not because of a foul, not because of VAR, not because of injury, but because the human body had limits. Football paused because of heat. At the time, many people saw it as a rare moment. One hot afternoon. One difficult match. One unusual case. But looking back, it was a warning. Then came another warning before World Cup 2026. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup in the United States became a rehearsal for the bigger tournament. Players, coaches, and medical experts complained about heat and humidity. Reuters reported matches in temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and FIFPro, the Global Football Players Union, called the situation a wake-up call. A wake-up call matters because it comes before disaster, not after. By 2026, the data was no longer easy to ignore. Climate Central reported that climate change had increased the chance of performance-impairing heat in 97 of the 104 World Cup matches. Nearly half of the matches had at least a 50% chance of heat that could damage player performance. That means this was not about one unlucky city. Not one hot afternoon. Not one bad kickoff time. It was nearly the whole tournament. World Weather Attribution also warned about wet bulb globe temperature, or WBGT. This matters because normal temperature does not tell the full story. WBGT includes heat, humidity, sunlight, and wind. In simple words, it measures how hard it is for the body to cool itself. Humidity is the trap. When sweat cannot evaporate properly, the body cannot cool down properly. That is when heat becomes dangerous. The warnings were there. Scientists warned. Player unions warned. Previous tournaments warned. And still, the World Cup moved forward. That is how slow disasters happen. Not in darkness. In daylight. With everyone watching. Outside the stadium, the World Cup still felt like a dream. A family arrives early. The father is wearing his country's shirt. The mother is checking the tickets on her phone. Their child is holding a small flag. They can see the stadium in the distance, shining under the sun like a promise. But between them and their seats is a long walk. The pavement is hot. The air is heavy. The security line barely moves. At first, they laugh about it. Everyone is hot. Everyone is sweating. Everyone wants to get inside. Then the child asks for water. The father says they will buy some after the gate. The line stops again. Nearby, another fan sits down against a barrier. His friend waves for help. Some people turn to look. Others look away because they are also struggling. In a crowd, discomfort becomes normal. When everyone is sweating, it becomes harder to see who is in danger. That is how heat attacks. It hides itself inside ordinary tiredness. A person with heat exhaustion may not look like a victim. They may look drunk, angry, emotional, confused, or simply exhausted. A worker may not want to complain. A fan may ignore dizziness because the match is once in a lifetime. And then there are the workers. Security staff. Volunteers. Cleaners. Ticket scanners. Parking attendants. Vendors. Police officers. Medical teams. Transport staff. They are part of the World Cup, but they are rarely part of the story. Some stand outside for hours. Some wear uniforms that trap heat. Some deal with angry crowds. Some cannot leave their post even when the sun becomes unbearable. Fans can sometimes choose to leave. Workers often cannot. That is why heat risk at a World Cup is not only about the stars on the pitch. It is about everyone around the match. The camera follows the ball. But the danger begins outside the frame. A slow gate. A long queue. A water station too far away. A crowded train. A child going quiet. A worker pushing through. A fan saying, "I'm fine," when he is not. One small failure may be manageable. Many small failures together become a crisis. Inside the stadium, the players face a different kind of battle. Football is already brutal. 90 minutes of sprinting, pressing, turning, jumping, tackling, chasing, reacting, and recovering. A player may run for kilometers, but the real damage is in the repeated explosive moments. Sprint. Stop. Turn. Jump. Sprint again. Now put that same game under extreme heat. Every action becomes more expensive. Every run drains more energy. Every breath feels heavier. The legs lose sharpness. The brain slows. And in football, even half a second can change everything. A defender reacts late. A midfielder stops tracking a runner. A striker does not make the final sprint. A goalkeeper loses focus for one moment. The heat does not score goals, but it creates mistakes. For the first 10 minutes, adrenaline can hide the danger. Players run. Fans scream. The ball moves quickly. The World Cup feels alive. Then the heat begins taking small pieces of the match. A winger walks back instead of jogging. A centre-back gets up slowly after a tackle. A midfielder bends over with hands on knees. The crowd may not notice. The commentator may call it fatigue. But coaches know. The heat has entered the game. Then the referee blows the whistle. Not for a foul. Not for VAR. Not for injury. For water. The hydration break begins. Players walk to the sideline. Some drink. Some pour water over their heads. Some place ice towels on their necks. Coaches speak quickly. Medical staff watch quietly. For 3 minutes, football becomes survival management. But the break also changes the match. Football is built on rhythm. Pressure grows. Momentum builds. The crowd feels danger. One team begins to dominate. The opponent begins to bend. Then the game stops. A team that was attacking loses rhythm. A team under pressure gets time to recover. A coach turns a safety break into a tactical meeting. That is the strange new football of extreme heat. The break protects players. But it also changes the story of the match. The hydration breaks became one of the biggest debates of the 2026 World Cup. FIFA defended them as a player welfare measure. The idea was simple: every match would have the same breaks, so every team would be treated equally. Players would get time to drink, cool their bodies, and recover. But not everyone agreed. Some coaches complained that the breaks damaged the flow of football. Some fans said the match no longer felt natural. Some critics said the sport was being pushed toward a four-quarter format, like American sports. This created a deeper question. What matters more, football tradition or human safety? For some people, the answer was obvious. No match is worth risking players' health. No tradition is more important than a body struggling in dangerous heat. But for others, the breaks changed the identity of the game. Football is loved because it flows. It is continuous. It builds pressure. It creates tension without stopping every few minutes. That is why the heat debate became more than a weather debate. It became a debate about what football is allowed to become. And behind that debate was a bigger question. If the weather is dangerous enough to stop every match twice, should some matches be played at different times? Should kickoff times be moved later? Should dangerous matches be postponed? Should there be more shaded areas outside stadiums? Should water be free and easy to access? Should workers have stronger heat protections? Should medical officers have the power to delay a game? These are not small questions. A World Cup match is not just a match. It is a global operation. Television schedules, sponsors, flights, security plans, hotels, police, ticketing, and stadium operations all depend on timing. Once that machine starts, stopping it is difficult. And that is why heat is so dangerous for mega events. It does not attack only the player. It attacks the entire system. The match. The fans. The workers. The transport. The city. The schedule. The money. The tradition. The World Cup had to ask itself a question it could not avoid. Can football continue the old way in a hotter world? By 2026, the heat was no longer theoretical. There were real cases. Kara reported that during one Miami match day, the heat index rose above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue recorded 10 heat-related medical calls at the stadium, with 2 people transported to hospital. That is not a future warning. That is not a prediction. That is the World Cup already creating heat emergencies. Reuters also reported that a heat dome threatened sweltering conditions for fans and players during the knockout rounds, with heat index forecasts reaching 105 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit across parts of the United States and Canada. That means the risk followed the tournament into its most important stage. The stage where fans arrive earlier. Where emotions are higher. Where crowds are bigger. Where nobody wants to miss a second. The danger does not end when the referee blows the final whistle. For heat safety, the final whistle may only begin the next risk. Thousands leave at once. People are dehydrated. Some have been drinking alcohol. Some are elderly. Some are carrying children. Some have worked long shifts. Some are lost in a city they do not know. Even after sunset, concrete and asphalt can keep releasing heat. The city continues breathing hot air. This is how a World Cup heat disaster can build. Not from one huge failure. From many small failures combining. A gate opens slowly. A fan zone has too little shade. A water station runs low. A train is delayed. A worker keeps going because they need the job. A child stops speaking. A fan ignores dizziness. A medical team becomes stretched. One problem may be manageable. 10 problems together become a crisis. And this is why the World Cup heat story matters beyond football. It is about mass gatherings in a warming world. The old sports calendar was designed for a different climate. The new climate is changing the rules. Whether football likes it or not. The most frightening part of this story is not that the heat came. It is that everyone saw it coming. The signs were there. Brazil 2014 showed that World Cup football could become hot enough to require official cooling breaks. The 2025 Club World Cup showed that North American summer heat could test elite players. FIFPro warned that dangerous heat conditions could affect host cities. Climate Central warned that climate change had increased the chance of performance-impairing heat across almost the entire tournament. World Weather Attribution warned about WBGT thresholds and unsafe conditions. Reuters reported the heat dome. Kara reported real medical calls. The warnings were everywhere. And still, the World Cup continued. Because the World Cup is powerful. For fans, it may be once in a lifetime. For players, it may be the peak of a career. For cities, it is a global showcase. For broadcasters, it is a massive event. For FIFA, it is the biggest tournament in football. So everyone keeps going. The fans keep walking. The workers keep standing. The players keep running. The cameras keep rolling. The ball keeps moving. Until the body says stop. That is the line heat draws. Not a political line. Not a tactical line. A biological line. In the final scene, imagine the stadium at sunset. The grass is perfect. The lights are bright. The crowd is loud. The flags move like waves. The players stand shoulder to shoulder, ready to chase history. From the television view, it looks like football paradise. But outside the frame, a medic checks a fan's pulse. A volunteer hands water to a worker. A child sits in the shade, too tired to cheer. A security guard wipes sweat from his face. A player bends over, trying to slow his breathing. A coach looks at the sky before looking at the tactics board. That is the contradiction of the 2026 World Cup. Beauty and danger in the same frame. Celebration and warning in the same city. Football and climate colliding under one sun. The deadliest opponent at the World Cup may not be the team across the pitch. It may be the heat above it. The danger everyone could feel. The warning everyone could read. The disaster everyone saw coming.